Around about 224 days. We are still not out of the woods, and we are still experiencing an electricity and energy security crisis characterized by inter alia significant load reduction, grid infrastructure related challenges, constipated grid, and both Eskom and the municipalities are severely cash strapped. We're now joined virtually by someone well known to most of us and who's going to talk with us on a potential silver bullet to address these challenges. Joining us this morning, no stranger to the program, is Professor Vally Padayachee, a power and energy expert, former Eskom Executive Manager, and a former Senior Executive at City Power Johannesburg. Professor, good morning once again, and welcome back to the Breakfast Rush.
Good morning, Michelle. Good morning to you and your viewers and your listeners. I'm glad to be back on this great show. Thank you.
Always a pleasure having you on. And as he's mentioned, viewers, so that means we're live on Facebook, live on YouTube as well. Professor, what does translational research mean, and how does it apply to the electricity crisis here in South Africa?
Thank you, Michelle, for the question. It sounds a bit technical, but let me try and respond very simply as I can for the benefit of the viewers. Translation research, or TR for short, is the process of translating or turning or converting laboratory type research into real practical or real world applications. And we do that, and this is important, to accelerate top-notch solutions to complex technical challenges. And this framework is not new, Michelle. It was pioneered by the medical profession for a number of years, and we see that being successfully being applied to the South African crisis. And my last point is that TR, in my opinion, educated opinion, can bridge the gap between academic research and real-world solutions. Nisha.
Can you briefly explain the current state of South Africa's electricity grid crisis and the main challenges we are facing?
Well, that's an interesting question because we are, as Michelle had said, we are still there. South Africa's electricity grid is facing several issues, severe issues, including aging infrastructure, inconsistent electricity supply, and high levels of load reduction, and until recently, which is good news, load shedding. Both the transmission and distribution grids are also what I term, and this is the Vally Padayachee terminology, severely constipated and requires urgent deconstipation. And there are other key challenges like inadequate maintenance, limited investment, and regulatory bottlenecks. Thank you.
How can translational research help in finding solutions to these challenges?
Well, I think, as I say, this is a potential silver bullet if it's implemented correctly. South Africa has been, as we all know, been waiting for this silver bullet, potential silver bullet, to accelerate, and the operative word is accelerate, at pace and scale, affordable solutions that the government can afford. In other words, with TR, to keep it simple, we now have the opportunity of doing more with less, just from a resource-wise. So, as we know, South Africa has lost a lot of skilled and competent people. We don't have many, and this industry, the electricity sector, is a very complex, sophisticated engineering industry. So the TR framework very fundamentally addresses this problem directly in a cohesive, integrated manner that can result in top-notch solutions by bringing in people from academia and all key resources under one roof, and they work side by side in crafting out solutions It's not a case of where academia works separately and then the private sector is battling with challenges and they don't really sort of converge to a solution. The TR framework allows all of these resources to work under one roof in an integrated manner to come up with those top-notch solutions, Michelle and Nazmira.
Mhm. Prof, what role do researchers and universities play and can still play in addressing current South Africa electricity crisis through the TR framework?
Well, researchers and universities play a traditional role of conducting studies that always identifies solutions and best practices. Now, this is normally done at tertiary institutions like the universities, some at the TVTs, etc. But lots of this research are what we call basic and foundational. In other words, although they're valuable, but they don't have direct or true real application in addressing the problems of the private sector vis-a-vis the power sector. So with the TR framework being applied or implemented at the universities and the private sector, we can now get the academic people to focus directly onto real world problems and together, as I say, in the integrated manner with the private sector, they can come up with these top-notch solutions.
Absolutely. How can the government and private sectors collaborate to implement solutions derived from translational research?
Well, the government will be a key stakeholder in this process for various reasons. So effective collaborative collaboration in a cohesive and integrated manner is key to success of this framework. So that's the essence. This can occur, and we can do this through public-private partnerships, joint funding initiatives, and here government will also play a role, also private sector, and of course shared research programs. And by aligning goals and resources, both sectors, that is the private sector, maybe academia, can accelerate the development and deployment of innovative solutions.
Prof, as a final question for this morning, what specific steps should be taken to accelerate the adoption of new technologies in our electricity grid?
Well, there are many steps, but just to keep it simple, Nazmira, the steps could include streamlining the regulatory processes because if the regulatory processes are not conducive and aligned, it can make it difficult. So we need that intervention. And then increasing funding for research and development. Now there's no such thing as a free lunch. So the value of the research and the solutions have to add value to the people that are putting in money. So that needs to be done. And then, so this as a follow-up to that, is to create incentives for the private sector investment. And of course, we need to come up with fostering pilot projects to test new technologies in the real world settings. And I can attest to that as a professor that there's a potential to implement this and accelerate much needed solutions to address the South African crisis. And the operative word is in an accelerated manner, doing more with less, and getting together under one roof, top-notch boffins and experienced people also from the private sector.
Absolutely. Professor, always such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Have a wonderful day. That was Professor Vally Padayachee, an energy expert, a power expert, a former executive at Eskom Executive Manager, that is, at Eskom, and former senior executive at City Power Johannesburg. Always coming through with electrifying conversation.
Absolutely valuable.
Very much so.
I just hope that we keep to the no load shedding. That's all.
That would be, it would be quite helpful.
What we said?
224 days.
Yeah, 224 days.
Yeah.
Just almost a year if you add 100 somewhat change.
Yeah. So getting into a silly season, Hajj is the topic this morning with world of travel, and we have the opportunity to speak with Brother Irshad Malik with regard to that. There was exciting news that was announced last week,
Okay.
and it affects everybody and anybody who's received an invitation for Hajj
Alhamdulillah.
coming next, right? So there's this change, a shift, if you will, where we have now new information. Well, it's probably not so much new information anymore, seeing as they've been talking about it on air since last week.
Yeah.
As recently as last night. This morning we'll have that conversation with Irshad Malik and two more colleagues in the industry. So if you haven't heard about it yet, you'll hear about it here on your breakfast rush at approximately 7:40 or so this morning. Gotta tell you what's happening with Vodacom next.
The Breakfast Rush, brought to you courtesy of the